was a day that started like many other days with our morning workout. However, it was a day that had a little bit of a different purpose. Yesterday, we ran with Ahmaud Arbery, who was murdered on February 23rd of this year, 2020. So yesterday, I took my two boys, who are 9 and 3, and we went on our morning jog, our morning exercise routine like we normally do. But this time, I had to have a conversation with the two of them. Now, we know that my 3-year-old obviously did not understand what I was talking about and probably wasn't paying attention, but my 9-year-old knew. And unfortunately, the conversation that we had was one that many parents of kids of color, black or brown, have to have with their kids on a daily basis. So today I had the opportunity to talk with two other moms who also happen to be moms of biracial children, who shared some of the same feelings and have to go through some of the same things that we have to go through, whether we have brown kids, black kids, or biracial kids. And here's kind of how that conversation went.
Well, I'm Lynette Sines. I've been married going on 21 years, mother of 4, stay-at-home mom, and a licensed cosmetologist with ambitions and aspirations to get my degree in psychology.
I'm Wendy Jackson, and I am a mom and wife, and I'm a registered nurse, former teacher. And my master's is in sociology. So I taught dual credit sociology.
Okay. So pretty much the reason that we are all talking today is because of this whole Ahmaud Arbery case. The incident recently came to light, even though it happened in February of this year, on February 23rd to be exact. And looking at all of our social media posts and just kind of some of the conversations that we've been having, we all three had some pretty strong feelings about this. And I don't think it's typically something that, or this topic is something that we normally broadcast on social media, but I did notice that all three of us suddenly had feelings. So what were your thoughts when you initially saw, have all y'all seen the video? I haven't seen it.
Yeah,
I can't watch it.
Yeah, I have seen the video, and me and Mark watched it together a couple of times. I think that what resonates with me is the fact that could be my husband. You know, he walks every day. He walks our dog. He goes out of our house, and we don't live in an area that is, has a lot of minority presence. There's some minorities in our neighborhood, but I would definitely say that our neighborhood is more, it's white. So, you have that concern that and I remember when he, what was it, the time that somebody asked you what you were doing here? When we first moved in, they asked him what he was doing here and why what his presence was. They did not believe that he was the owner of his house. And, it's things like that you worry that somebody will draw this conclusion or this assumption about your own husband.
Lynette, you saw the video.
Yeah, so I became aware of the story once it broke, I believe on Tuesday. I didn't watch it till Thursday, which is one of them things that I knew once I watched it, the emotions would come up. It took me like 3 years to watch 12 Years a Slave. I still haven't watched the documentary or the movie on Netflix, When They See Us, about the New York 5. It resonates too close to home for me because I have, boys. And they, especially my oldest who's 20, is in that demographic of the young men who are being killed. Like, Caleb, I think of like Jordan Edwards, he's 16, and I think of Trayvon Martin. But, Devin is, in that that weird stage of he's not a boy, he's a man, but he ain't man all the way. Like, he definitely needs his mama and his dad. And so it took me a minute to just watch it and then process it, and then I even watched it again to make sure what I was seeing was what I was truly seeing. And it's just one of them things that I'm like, you don't want to have to constantly explain these things to your boys. But yet here we are again, and it's starting to almost become a clinging symbol for them. They are very heightened. They're just heightened. And because of the lack of maturity, not saying they're not mature, but they're not men either. I'm very concerned that they could have that fear of flight thing and automatically be accused of doing something wrong just because they're scared, and they won't be given the benefit of the doubt simply because of the way they look.
And I also think that what people don't realize is that you have these young boys, and we see it a lot, like even at Lakeview, you see it a lot where these young boys are raised, and every image that they have of any type of authority, and in this situation, these weren't people that were people of authority, but any type of authority is questioned, and their intent is questioned. Quite frankly, just white people in general are questioned, and with good reason. And what people don't realize is that you have this young Black boy, or young Black man, he's, in his 20s. You have this young Black man who all of his life has had to question the intent of those white people around him. And then you want him to just stop. And that's not a level of comfort that you're allowed to have as a Black man. You're just not. And that's something that's ingrained. That doesn't happen overnight. It happens systemically, and it happens because over the course of their entire life, these messages are being sent to them from all these different areas, from media, from these types of situations. When these kids saw Trayvon Martin. They know who Trayvon Martin is. And so when you see these images and you see these things happening, no, I'm not going to stop. I mean, why would I stop? You have given me no reason to trust you. And that's where
I find that it's a mixed message as a parent to try to send to your kids, because at the same time you want to say, and my son is younger, he's only 9. So I want to have the conversation with him that when a police officer says do something, then you do it. Or if someone in authority asks you a question, you look them in the eye and you answer them. But then at the same time, there's like this mixed emotion of like, hey, like if you didn't do anything wrong, you didn't do anything wrong. So make sure that you assert that, but don't assert it too much, because then it might come off as something that they need to defend themselves on.
Exactly. A lot of times I see is that the other side doesn't understand that that's not a fear they have. If somebody stops me and an officer says, hey, stop, I need to talk to you, or even just
Wendy, you cut out. And I feel like you getting it in right now.
My home.
I can't hear you. There we go. It's coming back
there
now.
You are.
Like you was like going in.
Going at it, girl.
I was going in. Okay.
You were going at it.
Okay. So, wait, hold on. Let me feel my. Okay. All right.
Okay.
You ready? Okay. So what I was saying is that when I'm walking in my neighborhood, I don't have that sense of somebody stopping me and saying, hey, let me talk to you. I don't have that instinctual fear of this person may not be seeking my best interest. I feel like that's a negative. You know what I'm saying? Unless the situation says that I should be fearful. It's late at night, all the dynamics as a woman that we would be concerned. I don't fear instinctually that it's 1:00 in the afternoon in broad daylight and somebody does not have my best interest. If they say, hey, can I talk to you for a minute? That's not the situation. Or if they say, hey, and that's what we have in the society for young Black men. When you can't go anywhere. You can't go anywhere and trust that this person has your best interest at heart. You are always on guard.
This COVID situation even brought it to light for me a little bit more with the whole face mask thing. I find myself uncomfortable when my son is he brings out his bandana to put over his face. We go on our little walks early in the morning, and like there's this discomfort in me where I'm like, don't put that bandana on your face unless we're walking past someone, and then quickly put it on so that you don't spread the virus. But like it's just, I just have this difficulty of put on the mask to keep everyone safe. But since when have you ever been able to wear a mask and walk into a store and be okay?
Right, because you're worried about what somebody is going to think of your child based on what they're wearing, and that's not a fear that we, as members of the white community, so to speak, have. On my child, Dylan, for instance, Dylan looks she does not have the stereotypical, the traditional ethnic features. However, Sydney does. She looks they look different. Dylan does not walk in the same path as the other two do. She just doesn't. And so her fears are not the same as what Sydney had to go through growing up. And her experience was completely different. Worrying about what people are going to think, I have to keep a certain image. I have to have people think a certain way of me. I represent something bigger myself.
Right.
Dylan doesn't have that. She doesn't.
I know that
she's representing a bigger culture.
Along with other things we all have in common is that we are all in interracial relationships.
Yeah.